These days, there are many different ways and many different countries in which you can legally reduce your tax bill down to as low as zero. But some people prefer the clear-cut, old-school, no-holds-barred, tax-free countries where you don't pay tax on income or capital gains or wealth. There are only about a dozen of those. And today I'm going to walk you through some of the options and tell you if I could only choose one to live in and I had to stay there, I'm going to share with you which one country that would be. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson here at Nomad Capitalist. I've spent over a dozen years curating a network of global experts, building a team of over 30 people, all to help you, the 7- and 8-figure entrepreneur, legally go where you're treated best. And today we're going to have a little fun, a little hypothetical exercise where we talk about if I could only choose one tax-free country in the world to live in, and I had to stay in that country for as long as I wanted the tax benefits, what would that one country be? Fortunately, it does not work like that. You don't have to spend every day of your life in a country, but I'm going to share with you my thought process. Now, as we've talked about here in over 1,000 videos, there are numerous options where you can pay zero tax, even in countries that don't have zero tax, right? You can go to a territorial tax country, you can get tax exemptions. There are numerous different ways that you can structure your personal tax situation, regardless of what the country offers overall. And so I think that the idea of the tax-free country, it's nice. I like having a tax-free country either as a back pocket residence permit or a back pocket citizenship. We've talked about Bahrain, the UAE, Bahamas, etc. You buy real estate, you start a company, you get the access to go there for tax-free. In general, I think the tax-free country itself has lost some of its luster, precisely because you can get so many good deals in so many other countries. But all that said, let's go through some of the countries that could be my choice if I was stuck in one tax-free country for as long as I wanted to reduce my taxes. Not for the rest of my life, perhaps, but for as long as I wanted to reduce my taxes and I'm running a business. For the most part, you've got Monaco, you've got Brunei, you've got the Gulf countries, and you've got some islands. Okay, and so that's largely what you're looking at. Okay, we're not going to talk about the Pitcairn Islands or something like that, but we're going to talk about the most common places. Brunei, difficult to get into, tiny, not where I'd want to live. I think most people would agree. Monaco, if you're stuck within that country, I know people say, oh, I'll just go to France, I'll go to Italy. If you're stuck within that country, I think 1.1 square kilometers gets old pretty quickly. I don't care how many 41 euro hamburgers you like to have. You know, every once in a while, you just want to kick back a little. I would not go to Monaco. And so that leaves for me a distinction of, do I want to live in Gulf states or do I want to live in islands? I know that there are some people out there who would say, be Sean Connery, go to the Bahamas, go to Bermuda. I know folks who live in Vanuatu and love it. Antigua, St. Kitts and Nevis, countries where you can acquire their citizenship and you don't even have to bother with residence. I think that for me personally, Cayman Islands, not technically a country, but for our purposes, for me, I think lifestyle is important. And I think this is what people at a high level realize. So much of what's out there from lawyers and accountants is about how you reduce your tax as much as possible, but most people would rather pay a little bit more to have a life that they like. I'm not a beach guy. I'm not maybe I wish I could be, quite frankly, but I'm not. And if I'm on Antigua for the rest of my life, if I'm going to, spending my days in Fig Tree and Jolly Harbor, I mean, God bless Antigua. I love Antigua. I don't want to be stuck there every day of my life. I would get some serious cabin fever. And that goes for any of these islands, I think. Vanuatu is nice. I also just think that sometimes for people psychologically, I ask people this question sometimes, even if you're stuck in that one country, being so far away from everything does feel, it takes a toll on you in some of these places. So the Caribbean may be better than Vanuatu for that. I'm down to the Gulf countries, and I think among the Gulf countries, many of the Gulf countries are tax-free. I've been to pretty much all of them. I think that, the easiest choice to make would be to go to the UAE. And I think that's the choice that I would make. I've talked about Bahrain as one of the more liberal places in the Gulf. People certainly go there. We've got a gentleman from Saudi Arabia, goes to Bahrain and kicks back. I think that, and I know people will disagree with me, some people will, I think that you're seeing the policies of that part of the world being liberalized. I also think that certainly some of the concerns that people have are valid. If I were gay, I probably wouldn't make that choice. And I know people who are gay and they're friends of mine, and occasionally they run a little bit of trouble. And so everyone's gonna have a different choice. But for me, I think that some of the stuff that would affect me of, you can't go and protest against the government. For me, being a nomad capitalist is about going to somewhere where you just are happy with the life and you don't want to go out and protest, right? You're leaving the old life behind to a certain extent. You're leaving this thing where you go out and vote every 4 years and you shout and you get upset with the politicians and I don't want that anymore. I just want to enjoy my life. And so that doesn't concern me so much. And anything that you can, most things you can say about a country in the Gulf, I think you can say about many of the countries like the United States. Right? You can say some of those things. Now, I'm happy to have you leave a comment below. In fact, I'd like to hear what your favorite tax-free country is. So leave a comment below. And if you think I'm wrong, let me know that too. But the UAE for me, we've talked about family and friends. I have family and friends who can come anywhere. I like the fact that the UAE in particular, to me, feels relatively non-judgmental. Now, again, if I were from Pakistan, I wouldn't make the same choice. But being that I am who I am, it's relatively non-judgmental. And if my family and friends want to come with their US passports or their European passports and visit me, they're going to be able to do that. And it's a relatively open visa policy. If my family wants to come, if my parents want to come and live with me at some point and they want to be grandparents, they can buy a property, they can start a business, they can make an investment, they can get residence, and now they're there also. And so I think that openness to family and friends is there. But when I said enjoying your life, to me that's a pillar of Nomad Capitalist, is where can you go and just be happy? And I think that paying lower taxes means, for me again, I'm more free to give away money and not feel financially strapped. So I like to do that. That feels nice. I'm saving more money for my future. I feel comfortable. I feel more comfortable now in life and in business than I ever have, and more calm and more peace, partially because I'm able to save more money rather than constantly writing checks and being a slave to the government. I feel like I'm able to grow my business and spend money and make money and not have to worry about the date on the calendar or how I'm going to pull some work around because I'm just not worried about the tax bill. So all those things contribute to happiness. But so do things like consumer conveniences. And so, let's be honest, I think a lot of us, we want to go to nice restaurants. We don't want to eat the same food every day. We want to have, sometimes you want to go to McDonald's. Some days you want to go to a Michelin star restaurant. Some days you want to go to a museum. Other days you want to drive out into the desert or take a vacation to the seaside or swim in the pool or whatever. And I think that in a place like a Dubai or an Abu Dhabi, you have the option to do that. You've got some, certainly, nature that you wouldn't find in many other parts of the world. I'm very interested actually later this year to go to the UAE and spend some more time seeing the smaller, parts. I've been to a couple of cities, but seeing the wide open spaces, seeing some of the resorts that are out in the desert, and it's very interesting. Seeing some of the smaller ports on the eastern coast. And so I think that, it's not the ideal diversification that you might find in a country like a Mexico or a Malaysia or even the US, something like that. From a tax-free country perspective, you have, I think, a lot of places to go in the UAE. You're not in a tiny little country where there's basically only one city. Essentially, it's an island, like a Qatar or a Bahrain or something like that. And you have so many consumer conveniences. You want to go and buy a shirt. You want to go and see a play. You want to go to the opera. You have, things happening. And so for me, I think it helps me to feel good, to look out my window and see hustle and bustle, and to be able to move in and out of it as I want. And so I think that for a lot of successful people, the benefit is having access to all those things, but also having a great culture where when you order a car, it pretty much shows up on time, and the driver's nice, and the car smells nice. And there's a guy on on our Twitter recently. When I asked what's the most important thing in a place to live, he said, people around you in everyday situations who are genuinely nice. And I said, this guy knows what he's talking about, because it's easy to think everyone's going to be the same way they are in your country, but it's not always that way. And I like in a place like the UAE, people from all over the world. Number one, if you're just really bad at your job, you're not going to have that job very long, and people are motivated to keep the job. And there's this dynamism. I've worked with folks who live in the UAE, and they say there's such a youth and a dynamism and a growth here that you wouldn't find with people who were just all from there. But everyone comes from somewhere for the most part, and so there's this dynamism that exists, and that means that people are good at what they do, and they're pleasant, and you have a nice experience, and you're not having people throwing coins at you when you buy something in a supermarket. And so I think that, from a day-to-day perspective, just having people you can have pleasant encounters with, pleasant interactions with. I love Malaysia, and I love the people in Malaysia, but I also have some of the people who live in Dubai, who work in Dubai. Some of them also work in Malaysia. I love talking to the people from Bangladesh and from Iran. I mean, some of the nicest people. And it's just nice to go out for a coffee and have a nice conversation. To me, besides family, friends, just niceness in your daily life and being able to talk to people and bring a smile to people's faces, and also, you smile. It's so nice. And I think that, in that part of the world, I think you can create that. You can create a luxury lifestyle. You can have whatever it is that you want. If you want the beautiful Mercedes to take you to the airport with the guy in the suit, you can very easily get that. It's everywhere, right? And in a lot of places in the world, you don't have that. If you want to be surrounded by people who are successful, who are running companies, who are working in great positions, you can do that too. I don't think you would have all of that, perhaps in Brunei, but you're not really part of that local culture. I don't think you're going to have all of that for sure on an island. And so for me, that's why if I had to choose one tax-friendly country, I would choose the United Arab Emirates. I would not necessarily become a citizen of the UAE. They've talked about making that program available to certain people, but that's where I would choose to be. So I'd like to hear from you. Obviously, there are only so many tax-free countries. There are plenty of countries that you can make tax-free. I think that's the point that I want to get across. I do not live in Dubai. I have a couple of flags in Dubai and in the UAE, but I do not live there. I may spend more time there in the future, but there are plenty of ways without living in a tax-free country to legally and drastically reduce your taxes. But if you wanted to, totally exempt yourself from income and capital gains and wealth tax, you have a lesser number of places to go, and that's the one I would choose. How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number 2, get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.